Over the last couple of weekends, we have seen honestly a little bit more of the same with little development in the overall metagame of Disney Lorcana. But in a lot of winning deck lists, and honestly, top 8 deck lists, or even just deck lists that Ursula's uh, have been achieved from, we have seen some very interesting cards starting to stand out. Some from before that kind of, maybe fell off a little bit, that's kind of maybe coming back, and some brand new cards from Ursula's return that honestly not sure many have given a real chance. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some of those cards and the deck lists that they have found success in. So let's get into it. I wanted to start off by talking about tech cards. Are they good? Are they bad? What makes it a tech card? In most cases, a tech card is something that you're playing to specifically counter another matchup. In most cases, you're playing these cards to really add a percentage point in a given matchup that you're targeting. If you know your metagame, much like in Setchamp's local metagames, you can really predict it very well and kind of decide what cards you need in your deck to attack those metagames. Tech cards are the perfect example of this, and in more cases than not, the inkable ones end up being the best because what you can do with an inkable tech card is, well, you just ink it and you move on with life. So being inkable really does play an additional role in the ability to be a tech card as an example. Let's take a look at some of these cards that we've seen have success over the last few weeks in a various amounts of deck list. As you can see here, these are some pretty wide-rangey cards. Some are uninkable, some are inkable, and the leveraging that these cards are getting has been very interesting, whether it had been small local tournaments or even large DLCs. Some of the cards on this list have truly made an impact in deck building and given any deck builder the ability to kind of make a choice whether or not this card is right for them and right in their metagame. Let's break them down. Ruby Sapphire has definitely been a deck that since DLC Chicago has fallen out of favor. The addition of Ruby Amethyst into the metagame, creating all types of issues through Flynn Rider, through Castle, through Sisu, just so many ways for this deck to fall behind in games that it really needed to kind of mold and create a different way to be successful within the Lorcana metagame. Insert Hercules, Daring Demigod. A 5-cost, uninkable, 7 strength, 3 willpower, 0 lore with Rush and Reckless is the uncommon Maui of the Ursula's Return set. Now, this card does check a lot of boxes and can compete in doing things that you really want it to. The ability to 1-for-1 trade, remove a Queen's Castle is definitely something that no other card in the game can really do right now. So just that alone does give you the ability to say, is this card good or is it bad? Now, I think that this particular list has even more layers to it, adding Vital Spear, adding the Queen of Hearts, really giving ways to kind of answer some of the other Ruby Amethyst problems. But a card like Hercules is a true commitment to the ability of removing Queen's Castle. If this deck has the potential to be able to kind of get through the early game without taking too much lore increments, then Hercules is the perfect answer to kind of time walking opponents thinking their Queen's Castle is going to get multiple lore or multiple card draw. If your opponent takes a complete turn off to play a Queen's Castle and then move its characters to the castle and not quest, forcing you to have multiple ways to answer a Queen's Castle, you can really put them behind by simply playing Hercules and removing the castle and effectively time walking them while developing your board even further. I think Hercules is a really tough card to judge. In the end, yes, it is more versions of Maui, but the 3 willpower on this card really is the bigger issue. Yes, it's uninkable, so it's not nearly as versatile as Maui, but Maui alone can't get the job done on Queen's Castle. So the idea that Hercules is a 1-for-1 for Castle and for Mcduck Manor with a Vital Spear and for Pride Lands and things like that, it does make it an interesting choice. But the 3 willpower means so many cards can now trade into it. I'm not sure that it's good enough long term. Small term solution, maybe it's good. I'm not really sold on it though overall. Let's check on the next card. Emerald Amber is a deck that is consistently producing minimal results. It is a deck that was very overhyped in the beginning of the metagame, showcasing the potential to really sing under the sea and be a more effective Be Prepared. However, the results have not really panned out to that. Now, this deck is very fun to play, very versatile, and extraordinarily unique to the metagame. While it has seen certain levels of success, picking up a few local wins, top 64 at DLC Chicago, and definitely some minimal results that can be accounted for. I think the overall of this deck has not been able to live up to the hype that it was given to it. However, a recent addition to the deck is Sir Hiss. Now, Sir Hiss is an evasive 2-cost inkable character with 3 strength, 1 lore, and 1 willpower. And while the card looks incredibly innocent, what it really does is represent a check to a lot of the metagame. Having 3 strength on an evasive character that's inkable with 1 lore really kind of sets a tone for what it's able to do. It automatically checks opposing Diablos. It automatically checks basically every character in the game with 3 willpower. And that can go up well above to 3 or 4 or even 5 in some cases. And the idea that it's an evasive character in a format that doesn't have a lot of characters that would want to run into your Sir Hiss with their evasive really tells the tale. Ironically, it also is an inadvertent answer to Flynn Rider. Having a 3 strength Sir Hiss against a 2/2 Flynn Rider that they simply can't brawl your Hiss or get rid of it is another little perk to this snake. A lot of times for this deck, it's very difficult to gain lore. And through Sir Hiss being evasive and having this unique ability to always check the board, be able to trade into some of the more problematic characters that you have to contend with, or simply gaining a lore each turn, and ironically, even singing cards like Bare Necessities and Sudden Chill very freely without any worry of it being removed through challenging due to the evasive keyword, is all the more reason to include Sir Hiss and maybe even think about him in other Emerald decks. Specifically, as we get away from the Bucky design, there's a chance that Sir Hiss becomes more of a mainstay in even more decks moving forward. Amber Steel has always been a force and deck to be reckoned with within Disney Lorcana. More recently, some very interesting versions of the deck has popped up, and a lot of that comes from the card you see in front of you, Golden Harp. A 1-cost inkable Amber character with 1 strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore, and the ability Stolen Away. At the end of your turn, if you didn't play a song this turn, banish this character. At first glance, this looks like a card that most would probably never play, and it's probably too inconsistent. However, it is an inkable card, and because of that, it really breeds versatility. This is the type of deck that sometimes, yes, you get ink starved, yes, you get song starved, you run out of steam, and you really can't keep up. However, a 1-cost 1/4 with 2 lore is a stat that simply doesn't exist in the game, at least not until Daisy was just revealed the other day. The unique ability of Stolen Away does create some issues with playing this card successfully. However, after a fresh new hand of a whole new world, or being able to play the card onto the board and then a whole new world, really gives it its best opportunity to gain the maximum amount of lore and just be another cheap threat for decks to answer. In a world where Flute is not good enough and you can't effectively play that many uninkables, 1 quest with Golden Harp is worth 2 turns of Flute on a 1/4 character. 4 willpower is a very good number to avoid a lot of different things in the game. However, it is more weak to Ruby Amethyst in general because of cards like Fox, and in all honesty, even Goat or Maui can answer Golden Harp way easier than Ruby Amethyst could ever deal with Flute. Therefore, it's a card that I think is a very interesting choice in these decks. It's very hard to say whether or not it's best in what given metagame, but in a metagame that's more Emerald Steel focused, Golden Harp is definitely a more difficult card for them to deal with than Flute. Since Aladdin is a card that sees play in every Emerald Steel deck, you can't rely on Flutes whatsoever. But having a 1-cost 1/4 with a lot of cards in your hand and a lot of songs to be played, never know how much lore this card could actually gain you. Sapphire Steel recently has made a lot of waves of changes and choices within the Disney Lorcana metagame. We're seeing versions that are still top-heavy around Tamatoa. We're seeing versions that are more low to the ground, built around brooms and Mr. Smee. We've seen lists that we have showcased on this channel around Mickey Mouse Sorcerer and the Broom combo in general. The latest addition to the deck has been Hercules, beloved hero, another Ursula's Return character that may have not been given its full just due. This 6-cost inkable steel character with 6 strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore, and the abilities of Bodyguard and Resist 1 are a potential mirror breaker within Disney Lorcana. It really gives a gigantic problematic character to the board with Bodyguard, protecting your cards like Cogsworth, like Belle, like Hiram, and really putting in the extra effort and doing a lot of damage and just being an all-around nuisance. This card is a bit more expensive. It doesn't really play into every version of Sapphire Steel, I believe, but it's definitely a card that's picked up steam and has been really successful in local events recently. It's not a card that popped up at DLC Bockham or DLC Chicago, but it's definitely a card that, as Sapphire Steel has grown in numbers recently, players are looking for ways to kind of interact with Ruby Amethyst a bit more and even the Mirror a tad bit more. I believe Hercules definitely has the potential to do that. If your local metagame is really stacked with steel decks and steel removal, adding a 5 willpower, 1 resist, or more with Cogsworth being a 2 resist really could be a character that could be so very good in the current Disney Lorcana metagame. But if you are more on the Ruby Amethyst side and things like that, or Ruby Sapphire side, Hercules might not be the best call for your local metagame. Time will tell if this becomes a staple or not. I do think it's one of the more interesting cards on this list because it's being added to a deck that has seen a growth and success, but not as a staple in any of those decks. So it's one of those cards, if you're looking for something new to try out, this might be the perfect option for you. Just a few weeks removed from the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bockham, the #1 winning deck had 2 copies of the Peter Pan Shadow Finder, which was the 3-cost uninkable Amethyst character, 2 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore, with the abilities Rush, Evasive, and Fly, of course. Your other characters with Evasive gain Rush. What Peter Pan really did is add just another couple of numbers to the brawl count of Ruby Amethyst. Emerald Steel has been running rampant and probably will remain to run rampant all the way until Bucky is officially errata. Peter Pan offers you more than one thing, ironically. The first thing it does is offer an answer to Diablo on the draw that isn't Brawl. Having more answers to Diablo is definitely something that most Ruby Amethyst players are interested in, so I can get behind that mindset to begin with. But the other thing it really does is punishes poor play. When opponents feel like their Bucky is safe, if Peter Pan can come in on 3 and remove a Bucky, you are going to be fist pumping to the world. If in the mirror match, you might miss your 1 and 2, your opponent may have played a Flynn Rider and feel really safe about questing with their Flynn Rider, Peter Pan can kind of come in and flip the script back in your favor, removing their powerful card from the game and keeping yours around, and it being an evasive threat that sticks around for a very long period of time. In the mirror match, there just simply isn't really good answers whatsoever for a character with evasive. Therefore, it has the ability to be a great chip damage for opposing queen's castles. It's really great at singing friends on the other side and sticking around. It's a phenomenal addition with Crab. Merlin Crab can come in, buff it up to being a 5/3 evasive, which trades out into almost every evasive in the format. The card can really just be an all-around nuisance for the metagame. It's one of those where playing a 3-cost uninkable seems quite difficult when you have to give up a card like Lady Tremaine as a potential filler over the Peter Pan. But in a certain given metagame, when you're looking to really attack a specific thing, whether it be Emerald Steel, Ruby Amethyst Mirrors, or even other decks just trying to prey on low to the ground lore gainers, Peter Pan is another way to really catch back up in a particular matchup. And of course, in the end, this was a card that was a 2 of in the winning deck of a 2,000 player tournament. I feel that this Peter Pan may have already been successful in previous tournaments, and the longer we get into the metagame and more specific answers need to be made, or if more aggressive decks start to come to the forefront, Peter Pan might find its way into even more versions of Ruby Amethyst moving forward, and in all honesty, potentially other Amethyst decks as a whole. Mcduck Manor has had the ability to come through in multiple forms recently. While you've seen the addition of it back in Ruby Sapphire, we've seen it come back to Sapphire Steel, I really wanted to find a way to sneak in this Amber Sapphire deck that won a 29-player set championship featuring Mcduck Manor. Now, this is a deck that's very interesting. It's definitely not a meta deck whatsoever, but Mcduck Manor really does play a key role in it, along with playing a key role in many Sapphire decks currently. The idea of adding Mcduck Manor back to your deck is really understanding what it can do for Ruby Amethyst, or, in other words, what a Pride Lands is able to do for an Amber Steel deck. And what that is attacking on multiple fronts. Right now, Ruby Amethyst does have the ability to win through questing and really present a lot of 1-for-1 trades or 2-for-1 trades through the different characters within the deck. But most of the games are won through Queen's Castle. Ruby Sapphire is trying to do somewhat the similar thing. It really can win through its characters. It can win through Lucky Dime, but it also can now have the ability to win through Mcduck Manor away, controlling the board well as possible and then presenting multiple threats, making it more and more difficult for your opponent to compete. This deck is an aggressive starting deck with basically nothing but 2 lore characters or bodyguards to protect your 2 lore characters, that in the end is chucking down a 9 willpower card with 2 lore and telling your opponent to, hey, figure it out. Mcduck Manor in this list in particular is the ultimate way to close out the game. A lot of times this deck really gets caught up in the arms of what a Be Prepared, or even in most cases, a Tinkerbell plus Grab Your Swords or double Grab Your Swords line can happen. If you overcommit to playing too many characters into those lines, you pretty much can't recover. However, with Mcduck Manor playing its way into this deck, you can now really leverage the early game, gain as much lore as possible, and then start dropping opposing threats. Having a card like Mcduck Manor come down really has the ability to potentially gain you that last 2, 4, 6, 8 lore that you need in a given game against more controlling and mid-range decks. And there we have it. Some of the more impactful cards from recent set championships and DLCs, of course. All the deck lists found below were in events that were either winning or in a top 4 position. Some of the more successful decks that have been found recently, and definitely some of the ones I really wanted to send out and kind of give a little bit of a view for. Maybe they didn't make the meta report. Maybe they were just underneath the requirement to be a part of the meta report. But it's decks like these that really, are kind of interesting. Amber Emerald, Amber Sapphire. Amber Sapphire is a deck that hasn't made a top 8 or a top 16 of a real tournament in, since like chapter 1. So the idea that a Heroes for Hire deck can come out and win a 29-person set champs, hey, maybe there's a little more life to that list if more people had some eyes on it. Hopefully, maybe we struck some accords and we can find some ways to make that deck even better. Thank you guys so much for watching this video today. If you thought the 6 cards were enjoyable, if you think they're good enough, hit that like button for me. If you don't think they're good enough, hey, leave me a comment below with some of the cards that you think could have been on this list. There are lots of decks out there that I look at every single week when I'm kind of doing all the information for the meta report. And this past couple weeks, these were the 6 cards that really stuck out. They were kind of a bit of repeat in successful decks that really aren't talked about much, which I found really interesting. I mean, Amber Sapphire is a deck that hasn't made a top 8 in a real event in like 3 or 4 sets, probably since chapter 1, if I'm being honest. So I was really excited to see the Amber Sapphire deck winning a 29-person, set championships. It's really cool. Seeing the different Hercules from Ursula's Return maybe playing dividends in some wins in some different 7 championships as well. Pretty great. Amber Emerald's a deck that I have near and dear to my heart, and I really hope someday we can really be successful with it and it be more of a tier 1 deck instead of like a tier 2 or tier 2.5 deck. But all in all, this is a list of cards, a little bit minimal, could have been longer in all honesty, but I felt that these were the most unique and interesting cards I've seen recently. Definitely let me know in the comments below what you have seen, maybe in your set championships. A nice little shout out to maybe the store you've been playing at, any of that good stuff. If you haven't yet and you found this information, good for you. Make sure you hit subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. But if you are at DLC Fort Worth this weekend, please make sure you come by, wave hi, hello, take a picture, make me sign a card. Doesn't matter, whatever you guys are into. I'm there because I love it. I love the community. I can't wait to play in this weekend's tournament. Most of all, I can't wait to meet even more of you. Thank you guys so much of how awesome you've been in previous DLCs. Definitely looking forward to Fort Worth this weekend. And yeah, should be a great time. We'll catch you guys in the next video.